Welcome back. Today we're diving into a topic that really highlights that sometimes tricky collision point between private faith and, well, public politics.
Hmm.
We're talking about the high-profile interfaith marriage of Vice President JD Vance and Usha Vance, who is the first Hindu-American Second Lady.
Yeah, and this isn't just about, a famous couple. It's about a very specific kind of personal comment that exploded onto the national stage almost instantly.
Right, became this real flashpoint, pitting ideas of conversion against religious pluralism, all very public.
Absolutely. So our mission here in this deep dive is really to unpack that recent controversy. It all started with JD Vance saying publicly he hopes his wife, who is Hindu, will eventually embrace Christianity.
Okay.
And we've got sources covering the whole timeline, his original remarks, the clarification he posted pretty quickly on X, what Usha Vance herself has said about her faith in the past.
And also the reaction from the Hindu-American community, which was pretty strong, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely. Very sharp, very pointed, especially from organized groups.
Because, like you said, this whole sequence really sets the stage for a much bigger conversation we need to have in the country
For sure.
about, religious pluralism, what conversion means politically these days, and how personal faith, especially in high office, sometimes feels like it's being used for, well, political performance.
Yeah, that performance aspect is key.
Okay, so let's start with the exact moment this all kicked off, the remark itself.
Right.
It happened not too long ago at a Q&A session. He was at a Turning Point USA event down in Mississippi.
Big conservative gathering.
And someone in the audience asked him a question. Maybe a bit intrusive, but definitely politically loaded.
Yeah, they asked if he wished his wife, Usha, would eventually come to Christ. Pretty direct.
Wow. Okay, so how did he respond?
Well, his answer was immediate, very candid, actually, which is probably why the clip just took off online.
What did he say?
He said, and I'm quoting here, that he honestly hopes she will one day be moved by the same thing that I was moved in by church.
Okay, so pretty clear hope for conversion.
Yeah. Very clear. He followed it up by saying, basically because he believes in the Christian gospel. Full stop.
But he didn't just leave it there, did he? I remember reading he tried to balance it a bit.
Exactly. That's let's call it the political calibration. He immediately added a piece about free will, saying, if she doesn't, God says everybody has free will, so that doesn't cause a problem for me.
So it's like, here's my deep personal hope, but hey, I respect her choice if she doesn't.
Kind of. That's the framing. He used that moment, too, to talk about their family setup.
Right, he brought up the kids.
Yeah, he mentioned he's been a Catholic convert since, 2019, and that they're raising their 3 children, Ewan, Vivek, and Mirabel, as Christians.
He even gave specifics, like they go to Christian school.
Christian school, and he mentioned their 8-year-old had his first communion last year, so painting a picture of a Christian household, despite the interfaith marriage.
Okay, so the comment is out there. What was the immediate reaction? You said it went viral?
Oh, it was explosive. Because the optics, they were just unavoidable for a lot of people.
How so?
Well, for many critics online, it didn't sound like just a personal, loving hope. It sounded like public pressure.
A demand almost?
Yeah, or at least a public declaration that her current faith wasn't, enough. Once that clip hit social media, people did not hold back.
What kinds of things were they saying?
Everything from calling it a clear case of intimidation within the marriage to suggesting it was just a calculated move to score political points.
With who? His base.
Exactly. With a conservative Christian base that, let's be frank, often values conversion stories and maybe sees only one path to salvation.
So it really shifted the narrative around their marriage, didn't it? From maybe this symbol of interfaith harmony.
Which was arguably a unique selling point for a Republican ticket, yeah.
To suddenly being about theological pressure or conflict.
Precisely. And that leads us right into these two kind of competing narratives about Usha Vance's own background and her faith.
Okay, let's unpack those. What's the first narrative? Usha's side.
Well, let's start with her stated background. She's highly educated, Yale law degree. Her parents immigrated from India, from Andhra Pradesh.
And she's spoken about her Hindu upbringing before, right?
She has. She described it, I think the quote was, as something that helped make her parents good people.
Which sounds like a pretty common way people describe the ethical grounding they get from their faith tradition.
Very common, especially in dharmic faiths. It emphasizes the practical, moral aspect.
Okay, so that's one picture. But you said Vance presented a different narrative at that Turning Point event.
He did. It seemed designed to, minimize that Hindu foundation a bit.
How so?
He described Usha as coming from a Hindu family, sure, but then added, but not a particularly religious family in either direction.
Not particularly religious. That's an interesting framing.
And he went further, claiming that when they first met, both of them were basically agnostic or atheist.
Why frame it that way, do you think? What's the political purpose there?
Well, if you characterize her background as not particularly religious, it kind of makes her Hinduism seem like a less of a fixed identity, maybe more of a neutral space.
Like a blank slate almost.
Sort of. A non-belief, perhaps, just waiting to be filled by his own more recently embraced fervent Christian faith.
Which would play better with a base that sees faith in terms of certainty and conversion, rather than, say, inherited pluralism.
That seems to be the political utility of that framing, yes. It downplays the existing interfaith reality.
But that narrative, as you point out, seems to clash quite a bit with a public record of their relationship.
It really does. I mean, they got married back in 2014.
Right.
And our sources are clear. They didn't just have one ceremony. They had both a Christian ceremony and a Vedic Hindu ceremony.
That suggests a pretty deep mutual respect from the beginning.
It certainly points to an interfaith foundation, and Usha herself, in an interview from before all this blew up, explicitly said she is not intending to convert.
Okay, so she's on record saying that.
Yes. And she also confirmed, regarding the children, that they have plenty of access to the Hindu tradition. She mentioned giving them books, showing them things. It sounds like a conscious effort to maintain both connections.
Which sounds like a pretty established, respectful arrangement they've had for years.
It does seem that way based on her past statements.
Yeah.
Which makes the public hope for conversion comment even more jarring for some.
So Vance makes the comment, gets the backlash. Did he try to walk it back or clarify?
He did. Facing all that heat, he went on X, formerly Twitter, to clarify.
What was the clarification?
He stated very clearly, Usha has no plans to convert. So confirming what she had said previously.
Okay.
But then he immediately doubled down on his own sentiment, saying he still hopes she may one day see things as I do.
So not really backing down on the hope itself.
Not at all. And then he shifted tactics, going on the offensive.
Yeah.
He framed the criticism he was getting as anti-Christian bigotry.
Wow, okay. That's escalating things.
Definitely. He defended his desire to share the gospel, his hope for her conversion, as just a completely normal thing.
So the argument becomes, wanting my wife to convert is normal Christian belief. And if you criticize me for it, you're the bigot.
That's essentially the reframing attempt, yeah.
Did that work? Did it quiet things down? Or just pour fuel on the fire?
Oh, it definitely escalated things. Because now it wasn't just about his personal marriage dynamic. It was about political identity, religious freedom, claims of persecution.
It forces critics into a tougher spot, right? Now, they're not just responding to his words about his wife, but to his claim of being attacked for his Christianity.
Precisely. But the most, let's say, substantive response didn't just come from random people online. It came from a major institution.
The Hindu American Foundation.
Exactly, HAF.
Okay, let's talk about that institutional response. Yeah. Because that seemed to really sharpen the focus on the bigger philosophical and political issues.
It did. HAF, which is, a significant advocacy group for Hindu Americans, they didn't mince words. They publicly slammed Vance on X.
Slammed. Strong word.
Yeah. And they deliberately shifted the focus away from just the personal he said, she said of the marriage.
Towards the underlying philosophy.
Exactly. Towards the philosophical implications of his statement for everyone, not just Usha Vance.
So what was their main objection, philosophically speaking?
This is where it gets really interesting for our deep dive. HAF argued that Vance's comment reflects a specific worldview, that there is only one true path to salvation.
And that path is Christianity.
Through Christ, yes. And they explicitly contrasted that with Hinduism, saying that's a concept that Hinduism simply doesn't have.
So they saw his personal hope not just as personal, but as a public assertion of an exclusionary religious belief.
Pretty much. A belief that fundamentally clashes with the idea of American pluralism, where different paths are generally seen as valid.
That's a powerful critique.
Yeah.
Did they challenge him directly on this?
They did. They posed a really sharp question, basically saying, look, you thanked your wife for encouraging your return to Christianity. Why don't you reciprocate? Why not engage with her faith, with Hinduism?
Ooh, that puts the spotlight right back on mutual respect, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the power dynamics in that kind of public statement.
Definitely. And HAF didn't stop there. They provided context for why this kind of talk about conversion is so sensitive for Hindu Americans.
What was that context?
They defined Hinduism, in their statement, as being inherently inclusive and pluralistic. And they made a point of saying Hindus do not seek to convert anyone.
So setting up a direct contrast with proselytizing faiths.
Right. And then they brought up history. They mentioned a history of Christians sometimes using unethical means to try and convert Hindus.
So there's historical baggage there that makes these comments land differently.
Exactly. And they tied it directly to Vance's political base, pointing out that, quote, the most vocal voices in your base seem to not actually believe religious freedom should extend to Hindus.
So the critique broadens out again. It's not just about Vance's hope for his wife anymore.
No, it's about the political signal being sent. That maybe conversion is seen as necessary by some, and that simply accepting another person's faith isn't enough, politically or theologically.
And HAF is grounding this in Hinduism's own nature, defining it as pluralistic. Where does that idea come from? How deep are those roots, especially here in the U.S.?
That is the perfect question to pivot on, because to really get the weight of HAF's critique, you have to look beyond just this news cycle.
Okay.
We need to appreciate the philosophical depth, particularly of Vedanta Hinduism, which has actually been influencing American thought for, well, almost 200 years.
Wow, 200 years. So this isn't some recent phenomenon. This philosophy has been part of the American conversation for a long time.
A very long time. Think back to the 1830s, the American transcendentalists.
Emerson, Thoreau.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Emerson, Thoreau, Walt Whitman, these major American thinkers were deeply reading and engaging with Hindu scriptures like the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita.
And what were they drawing from it?
Core ideas like the divinity inherent in all people, the interconnectedness of all beings, the idea of divinity in nature itself, this concept of universal divinity, multiple valid paths to truth that's central to the pluralism HAF is talking about.
So it's not just an imported idea. It's been woven into America's own search for meaning for generations.
Absolutely. It's part of the intellectual and spiritual heritage here.
That's fascinating. And you can actually see echoes of these deep philosophical concepts pop up in mainstream culture, right? Even if people don't always recognize the source.
Oh, all the time. Think about a huge blockbuster movie like The Matrix.
Okay, yeah. The red pill, blue pill.
Right. That whole concept taps directly into the Hindu philosophical idea of Maya.
Maya. Okay, explain that a bit more. It means illusion, right?
But yes, but it's deeper than just like a mirage.
Mm.
Maya in Sanskrit refers to the cosmic illusion, the sort of veil of ignorance that makes us perceive the world as just separate things, separate events.
When really it's all connected.
Exactly. It obscures the underlying unity, the singular reality or truth, sometimes called Brahman in Vedanta. Maya is the reality we think we know, driven by ego, senses, material attachment, but it's ultimately misleading.
So transcending Maya means seeing through that illusion.
Yes, realizing that interconnectedness, your true nature beyond the ego.
And that connects to the Matrix how? The pills.
Precisely. The blue pill is choosing to stay comfortably inside Maya, accepting the simulation, the ignorance.
Stay asleep.
Right. The red pill represents the difficult path, the, you could say, spiritual effort needed to pierce that veil, to see reality as it truly is, to wake up. That whole quest mirrors the journey described in Vedanta.
Okay, that makes the connection really clear. What about other examples? Star Wars.
Definitely. George Lucas openly drew inspiration from Eastern philosophies, including Vedanta, the Force itself.
That energy field connecting everything.
Yeah, it strongly echoes concepts like Shakti, the divine feminine power, or cosmic energy, or prana, the life force, concepts central to Hindu thought. It's about an unseen energy binding the universe.
So these aren't just niche ideas. They have a universal appeal that resonates widely.
Totally. And that resonance is reflected physically, too. I mean, the Hindu American community has grown significantly. There are nearly 1,000 Hindu temples across the U.S. today.
It's an established part of the American religious fabric.
Absolutely. Which is why, a public comment from someone in such high office expressing a hope for conversion of their spouse, it lands with a particular kind of impact in that context.
It really brings everything into sharp focus.
It does. Ultimately, this whole JD Vance incident, it's like a perfect case study. It opens a window onto that really complex interplay between interfaith marriage, political identity, and this core American principle of religious freedom.
And it really forces you, the listener, to think about that line between personal faith and political performance.
Yeah, is this deeply held personal belief being expressed, or is it perhaps being leveraged strategically, maybe to satisfy a specific voting base that expects a certain kind of religious assertion?
It's impossible to know the true motives, but the impact is what we're discussing.
Exactly. The impact and the questions it raises.
So let's leave you with a final thought to chew on. Remember, Vance himself credited his Hindu wife, Usha, with encouraging him to reconnect with his own Christian faith.
Right. That adds another layer of complexity.
So given that, and given the Hindu-American Foundation's definition of Hinduism as inherently pluralistic, a tradition, they say, prioritizes acceptance over conversion. Consider this. What does it really mean, politically and socially, when a major faith tradition emphasizes acceptance rather than seeking converts? How does that philosophy challenge a political landscape where conversion, or at least asserting one's own path as the true one, is often seen as a marker of strength or conviction?
Yeah.
And maybe more personally, when a public figure expresses that hope for their spouse's conversion, where do you draw the line? Is it primarily an act of personal love and faith? Or is it inevitably, in today's climate, an act of political signaling? Something for you to think about.